Western Spring Television. Ours it is.
Here are the top stories of the news. Oyo State Governor Seyi Makinde suspends campaign activities over the fuel and new Naira note crisis. The APC presidential candidate Bola Tinubu alleges sinister plot to disrupt the February 25 polls. On the foreign scene, China urges easy handling of dispute over a giant Chinese balloon heading for the eastern part of the United States. Good afternoon and welcome to Spring News at 12 on Western Spring Television. My name is Tunde Ido. We begin in Oyo State. Governor Seyi Makinde has announced the suspension of his campaign activities over the unending fuel and new Naira note crisis across the country. The governor made this known in a video after protests rocked the capital city, Ibadan, due to the fuel and new Naira note crisis. The governor noted that due to the scarcity of fuel and Naira slowing down economic activities, protests are understood, but the people must also not allow external elements who want to make it violent to prevail. He stated that violence cannot and will not solve the problems of the country, but it only creates new ones. He called on the people to use their PVC and not violence, adding that the people have another opportunity in a few weeks to move this country in a new direction.
My dear good people of Oyo State, I'm addressing you today because of the prevailing conditions in our state and country that have led to protests and riots, especially in Ibadan. First, let me say that I understand the need for this protest. When citizens get pushed to the wall, there's only so much that they can take. The continuous fuel scarcity and the scarcity of the Naira have led to slow economic activities. I must repeat, I understand and I feel your pain. I've always maintained that peaceful protests are fine when things are not going how we want them to go. We have a right and even a responsibility to protest. Let me also state that while we're protesting, we must remember how easily a peaceful protest can turn violent and lead to the loss of lives and property. The violence that erupted in parts of Ibadan today is condemnable and will not be tolerated. In response to this, I have suspended all campaign activities forthwith. I've also met with the heads of security agencies in Oyo State to restore calm and maintain the peace in our dear state. Violence cannot.
Protesters yesterday caused gridlocks on the popular Warri-Sapele Road and other major roads in Warri Metropolis, the commercial city of Delta State, to show their grievances over the lingering hike in price of fuel and new Naira note scarcity across the state. The protesters, in their large numbers comprising residents and traders in Warri main market, carried placards as they stormed the popular Warri-Sapele Road, while noting that unless the situation is addressed timely, no electorate will vote in the forthcoming elections in the country. The aggrieved protesters vowed to continue with the protests until the federal and state governments heard their cry. The protesters accused fuel marketers and various bank managers of being responsible for the hardship being meted out on the citizen. Videos that emerged on social media shows that the protesters could be seen blocking the entrance of a bank. The The Inspector General of Police, Usman Baba, has ordered the arrest and subsequent prosecution of all individuals engaged in the sale of or abuse of Naira notes issued by the Central Bank of Nigeria. The force spokesperson, Olumiwa Adejobi, revealed this in a statement yesterday. The IGP directed the Deputy Inspector General of Police in charge of the Force Criminal Investigations Department and the Assistant Inspector General of Police in charge of the Force Intelligence Bureau to place officers of the department across the nation on high alert to carry out the directive. The police chief noted that this was in furtherance of the federal government's policy and drive to uphold the provisions of the CBN Act 2007 and dignify Nigeria's currency. The IGP similarly charged all supervisory AIGs and commissioners of police in charge of police commands and formations to carry out full enforcement of the provisions of Section 20 and 21 of the CBN Act of 2007. The CBN Act criminalizes, amongst other things, the hawking, selling, or otherwise trading of Naira notes. Ahead of the presidential election, the presidential candidate of the All Progressive Congress APC, Bola Tinubu, has alleged a sinister plot to cause a crisis that will lead to the postponement and disruption of the February 25 polls in Nigeria. He stated this at the party's presidential campaign rally at the Ekiti Parakpo Pavilion in Ado-Ekiti, the Ekiti state capital, yesterday. He disclosed that the evil plotters want to provoke the people to violence so that the election will be disrupted and postponed, and they can cunningly introduce an interim government. The APC presidential candidate asked the people to stand firm and resist any negative plot by destroyers. He also advised the electorate to ensure they have their permanent voter cards and not give in to any plot by destructive elements to install an interim government after causing an undue crisis. Describing Ekiti people as respected intellectuals, Tinubu promised that his administration will not relegate them if elected president. The presidential candidate of the Labour Party, Peter Obi, has assured people of the Southeast that his government will turn the region into Nigeria's industrial hub if elected into office. He also challenged those who turned up at the rally in Abakaliki, the Ebonyi state capital, yesterday, and the rest of Nigerians to hold him responsible if a new Nigeria does not emerge with him in office. The presidential flag bearer of the Labour Party made this declaration as he takes his campaign trail back to the Southeast geopolitical zone, promising to change the state. He told supporters that his administration will make the Southeast become a hub for manufacturing and export.
Let me assure you, the Southeast will become a hub for manufacturing and export. Everybody wants a government that see the come from it. I'm not sure. But they have only days. We have also access to change here and we will change it. So let me appeal to you. This year's election should not be on trial.
The governor of Rivers State, Nyesom Wike, has stated that those within the People's Democratic Party, PDP, who don't want the success of the G5 will fail. Governor Wike stated this during the party's campaign rally at Okrika, local government area of the state. The G5, also known as the Integrity Group, is a coalition of disgruntled governors who oppose the party's choice of leadership under the national chairman, Yocha Ayu, as well as the non-inclusivity of the southern members. While addressing the party faithfuls on the ground yesterday, Governor Wike claimed that the G5 is an integral part of the party's success, which cannot be easily displaced. It said those saying they don't want G5 have been exposed, and whatever they do, they need the governors. Governor Wike also proclaimed that the oil-rich state was important in the polity to claim victory at the polls. As the February 25th presidential election draws nearer, two of the major political parties, the ruling All Progressive Congress APC and the opposition People's Democratic Party PDP, have seen renewed internal conflict and infighting. This report by Emmanuel Ujuadugele examines the beginning of some of the issues and their potential effect on the performance of the parties at the polls.
In the aftermath of the primary elections of the two major political parties in Nigeria, cracks began to emerge in the walls of these organizations. For the All Progressives Congress, issues arose from a letter purportedly written by its national chairman Abdullahi Adamu, stating that the party's choice was Senate President Ahmed Lawan. After much uproar, including an outburst from former Lagos Governor Asiwaju Bola Tinubu, the party settled for a primary election that produced Asiwaju Tinubu as party flag bearer.
I, Senator Abubakar Atiku Bagudu, do hereby declare Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu as the presidential candidate of our party in the forthcoming 2023 presidential election.
After the dust settled on the APC's matter, attention soon turns to the People's Democratic Party (PDP), where 5 governors of the party went to war with their national chairman, Senator Iyecha Ayu, over perceived injustice and failure to keep to a power rotation agreement. Led by Governor Nyesom Wike of Rivers, Governors Seyi Makinde of Oyo, Samuel Otom of Benue, Okeze Piazu of Abia, and Udom Emmanuel of Akwa Ibom refused to participate in the party's presidential campaigns and have also failed to publicly endorse their flag bearer, Atiku Abubakar.
I will say it. If anybody feels hot, let him go to court and challenge me. Nobody will lead me to a campaign. A man who is corrupt. I have challenged you. You are corrupt and you cannot lead me to any campaign. I will not. River State will not. Whether they like it or not, you cannot lead us to a campaign. You is corrupt. I'm sorry to say this. I'm sorry to say to the very way, Governor, if I've insulted you, forgive me. Rivers people are hot, and we are hot. Are you not hot? Are you not hot? Are you not angry? Are you not angry?
While the PDP's crisis rages on, that of the APC recently reared its head. After another outburst and series of strongly worded comments by Asiwaju Tinubu, Kaduna State Governor Nasiru El-Rufai this week revealed that some elements within the APC and the Aso Villa were working against the victory of the party in the February 25th polls.
I believe that there are elements in the Villa that want us to lose the elections because they didn't get their way. They had their candidate. Their candidate didn't win the primaries, and I think they are still trying to get us to lose the elections, and they are hiding behind the president's desire to do what he thinks is right.
Commenting on this, a director of general studies at the Federal University of Ekiti, Professor Wasiu Oyedokunali, describes the crisis as unsurprising.
It's expected. Matter of fact, it's expected. It has been long predicted, particularly by somebody like me and some other right-thinking persons, because we know the configuration of the APC from the beginning. It's a coming together of string bedfellows, and of course, when you have string bedfellows, they have different ideologies, different interests coming to play, especially at this time when power is shifting to the south. It's expected. Professor
Oyedokunali also believes that the two other parties will not necessarily benefit from the rancor in the two major parties.
Because in Nigeria, you find that it's actually not the personalities people look forward to voting the election. It's the party, the structure that's on the ground. What we now have is a little from the left, a little from the right. Of course, when you look at the Labour Party, some candidates, Peter Obi will make some inroads, and as the Electoral Act stipulates, there may not be a clear winner in the election. There may be a rerun, so to speak, but the truth of the matter is that the battle is straight between Asiwaju Tinubu and Atiku.
Similarly, a socio-political analyst, Ayologun, says this speaks to the shallowness of the third force movement.
For me, the loss of the PDP or the APC is not going to be the advantage of any party, because absolutely the crisis rocking those two parties is a strong signal that we don't have strong party system in Nigeria. They are just vehicles for election victory and of course politics and governance. For me, there's no third force, so to say. I see the possibility see in a shortest time the likelihood of an NNPP declaring for one of the major political parties, maybe the PDP and the APC, and then you begin to wonder when that happens, and if it happens, where lies the hope of those who have put all their effort and belief in that party.
With 22 days to the election, it remains to be seen if the APC and PDP will resolve their issues and present a united front, or whether other parties will benefit from their failure to settle. Emmanuel Ujarigele, Western Spring Television News.
And to legal matters, the Supreme Court has affirmed Colonel Kefas Agbu retired as the governorship candidate of the People's Democratic Party PDP in Taraba State for the March 11, 2023 governorship election. The judgment of the Apex Court delivered by Justice Emmanuel Agim upheld the decision of the Court of Appeal sitting in Yola Adamawa State that dismissed the twin appeals filed by two contenders for the governorship ticket, Hilkia Buba Joda and Jerome Iyame. In the judgment, the court held that the appellant acted in breach of Section 84 and 87 subsection 9 of the Electoral Act by failing to make use of the primary election dispute mechanism as contained in the party's guidelines. Both appeals were deemed premature and lacking in merit as they were instituted without exploring the internal party options to seek redress before heading to the court. The Apex Court also stated that the failure of the appellant to include other aspirants who took part in the primary election at the early stages of the trial robbed them of the right to a fair hearing. At the governorship primary, Agbu won the contest with 443 votes out of the 517 votes cast. You're watching Spring News at 12 on Western Spring Television. We'll be right back after this break.
At birth, but globally known as Mao Zedong, he was a Chinese revolutionary and founder, People's Republic of China, which he led as chairman of the Chinese Communist Party from 1949 until his death in 1976. He was a communist who believed in the attainment of power by the instrumentality of gun. His wise saying, "Political power grows out of the barrel of gun," formed the major plank of his revolutionary struggle for the control of China. In the long span of his leadership and political power, Mao Zedong relentlessly entrenched the communist philosophy in China, which emphasized the revolutionary struggle of the vast majority of people against the exploiting class and their state structures. The communist leaders defined the class struggle as people's war. Mao Zedong was a story of grass to grace, having risen from peasantry to preeminent status as China's most respected leader. Western Spring Television identifies Mao Zedong as a major character in history.
Welcome back. And to security matters, a Thursday night clash between terrorists and an outlawed security personnel group known as Yan Kasai has led to the death of no fewer than 41 persons in Katsina State. Police Public Relations Officer in the state, Gambo Issa, confirmed the incident to newsmen in a statement yesterday. He stated that the Yan Sakai outlawed group from 11 villages in Bakori local government area regrouped and went after the terrorists with a view to recovering the rustled domestic animals. The police spokesman said that the outlawed group further traced the footpaths of the hoodlums to a location at Yagoje Forest where the terrorists planned and launched a coordinated ambush on the group. It disclosed that the hoodlums shot and killed 41 Yan Kasai and wounded 2, noting that of Policemen have gone to the scene and recovered the corpses and took the injured persons to Kankara's General Hospital. He added that a joint security operation is currently ongoing with a view to bringing the perpetrators to book. The governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Godwin Emefiele, has insisted that the Apex Bank will not extend the deadline for swapping old Naira notes with the newly redesigned ones. He made this known during a special briefing at the CBN office in Lagos, stating that the CBN and other stakeholders are already looking at addressing areas where there are pressures. Mr. Emefiele said that the Apex Bank acknowledged the pains Nigerians are facing in assessing the new Naira notes. According to the CBN governor, the Apex Bank will extend cash swaps to microfinance banks and engage 30,000 super agents in the hinterlands as part of new measures to accelerate the circulation of new Naira notes. He further stated that the CBN is discussing with banks to make alternative channels easily accessible. Earlier, President Muhammadu Buhari asked Nigerians to give him 7 days to resolve the cash crunch following the CBN's redesigning of the Naira notes. And news outside Nigeria, China has urged easy handling of a dispute over a giant Chinese balloon heading for the eastern part of the United States. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken earlier called off a visit to Beijing, saying the surveillance balloon present was an irresponsible act. Later, the U.S. reported a second Chinese balloon floating over Latin America. China expressed regrets over the balloon over the U.S., saying it was a weather airship that had been blown astray. In a statement today, the Chinese Foreign Ministry said Beijing never violated the territory and airspace of any sovereign country. It said its senior foreign policy officials, Wang Yi, had discussed the incident with Mr. Blinken over the phone, stressing that maintaining communications channel at all levels was important. The U.S. has decided not to shoot down the high-altitude airship due to the dangers of falling debris. The incident comes amid fraying tensions between the U.S. and China. The Memphis Police Department yesterday said it had fired a 6th officer, Preston Hemphill, involved in the arrest of Tyree Nichols, the 29-year-old African-American whose fatal beating shocked the nation. The department in a statement said Hemphill, who had been in the Southern USCT's police force since 2018, violated multiple departmental policies, including personal conduct, truthfulness, and regulation on taser gun use. 5 other officers had already been fired and charged with murder over Nicole's death. Hemphill, a white man, had been suspended since the beginning of the department's investigation, but that was not made public early. Shelby County District Attorney Steve Mulroy has said other police officers, fire department personnel, and others who prepared documentation of the incident may also face criminal charges as more information becomes available. Elsewhere, Burkina Faso's transition government has announced that the remains of President Thomas Sankara and his 12 companions assassinated on the 15th of October 1987 will be reburied later this month at the Thomas Sankara's memorial in the capital, Ouagadougou. It will be recalled that the bodies of Sankara and his companions of the People's Democratic Revolution, RDP, were exhumed on 25th of May 2015 as part of a judicial process to make sure the remains were indeed his. Seen as Africa's revolution figure, Sankara was hastily buried with 12 others after he was ousted in a 1987 coup. According to a statement issued yesterday, the decision is the result of consultations within the armed forces, the families of the victims, the customary and religious authorities, and the International Committee of the Thomas Sankara Memorial. Sankara's reburial will be done according to customary funeral rites, followed by religious and military ceremonies. Talking sports, British record signing Enzo Fernandez made his Chelsea debut but could not help his new side claim their second win of 2023 as they were held by Fulham at Stamford Bridge. Argentina midfielder Fernandez completed a £107 million move to the Blues from Benfica 3 days ago, and Graham Potter opted to hand him an immediate start. He made a solid impression and almost enjoyed a dream debut when his called efforts flew just wide of the post in the second half. Kai Havertz also went close before the break when his lobbed effort from Hakim Ziyech's superb pass clipped the woodwork before the ball was cleared off the line. But overall, Chelsea did not do enough to end the win as they again struggled to create real goal-scoring chances, finishing the game with just 3 shots on target. Before we end the news, here is a recap of our top stories. Governor Seyi Makinde has announced the suspension of his campaign activities over the unending fuel and new Naira note crisis across the country. The presidential candidate of the All Progressive Congress APC, Bola Tinubu, has alleged a sinister plot to cause a crisis that will lead to the postponement and disruption of the February 25th polls in Nigeria. On the foreign scene, China has urged easy handling of a dispute over a giant Chinese balloon heading for the eastern part of the United States. You can follow us on our social media handles on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Western Spring Television. You can also watch us live on our YouTube channel at Western Spring Television. That ends Spring News at 12 on Western Spring Television. Thank you most sincerely for viewing. On behalf of the entire transmission team, my name is Tunde Ido.